I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I want to tell you all what I just went through because honestly, I feel like my world got turned upside down in the worst way possible. I was supposed to get married next week. Everything was perfect, or so I thought. We'd been together for about 3 years and I was ready to settle down, start a family, normal stuff. Her name's Lisa. She's beautiful, confident, and always acted like she knew everything better than everyone else, especially me. But there were tiny signs, little things I brushed off because I loved her and thought I knew her. The first sign was her phone. Sometimes she'd hide it when I walked into the room, or she'd get a little defensive when I asked to see it. I joked about it, said she was hiding a secret, and she'd laugh it off, roll her eyes, say I was paranoid or that I was imagining things. I didn't pursue it too much because I didn't want to turn into that guy who's always accusing his fiancée of stuff. But then the little lies started piling up. She'd tell me she was working late when I'd call, yet I'd see her Snapchat stories from a bar downtown, laughing with friends. She'd say she was at yoga, but I'd find her phone at home with texts from some guy named Travis, calling her babe and saying he missed her. I told myself maybe I was just paranoid, maybe it was innocent. We were about to get married, and I was trying to ignore the gut feeling that something wasn't right. Then 2 days before the wedding, I decided to pack some of my stuff from her apartment because I was going to stay with my parents for a couple of days. I was just feeling uneasy and I wanted to clear my head. That's when I found it. In her purse, tucked inside her wallet, was a hotel room key. My stomach dropped. I looked at it, stared at it like it was some kind of bad joke. It wasn't a key to a regular hotel. It was a key card to the Marriott downtown. I checked the date, right around the time she told me she was at her sister's house. My mind started racing. I knew I shouldn't jump to conclusions, but this was evidence. I kept looking through her stuff, trying to find more, and sure enough, I found a receipt from the hotel in her purse, a few lipstick smudges, and an unusual perfume scent I didn't recognize. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't believe she'd do this right before our wedding, right in my face. I wanted to scream, I wanted to break something, but I just stood there frozen, holding her damn hotel key. The betrayal hit me so hard I felt sick. So many questions flooded my mind. How long? Who else? Was I just blind? I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything, trying to find a way this could all be some big misunderstanding. But it was. The evidence was right there. And the worst part, Lisa had been lying about everything. I couldn't believe she'd lie about something so huge, so obvious. I thought she loved me. I really did. But now I wasn't so sure. That hotel key was the last thing I needed to see to know my life was about to change forever. I was furious, hurt, and honestly a bit numb. I knew I had to confront her, but I didn't know what would happen next. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My stomach was in knots, my mind racing 100 miles an hour. I kept staring at that hotel key in my hand, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to yell, to break things, to demand answers right then and there. But another part, the cold, logical part, told me to slow down, to think carefully about my next move. I knew I couldn't just confront her on impulse, not yet. I needed a plan. I spent the morning packing around my apartment, trying to piece everything together. I knew she'd lied about everything, about where she was, about who she was with. Her stories about her work meetings and girls' nights suddenly felt like a bad joke. I couldn't shake the feeling that she'd been hiding this for weeks, maybe longer. That thought made me sick. How many times had I trusted her? How many nights had I been clueless while she was out with Travis? It felt like a betrayal, not just of me, but of everything I believed in, our vows, our future. I decided I needed to see her. I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. But I also knew I had to be smart about it. I wanted her to admit to everything on her own, to face her lies. I waited until she texted me, saying she was at work, and then I told her I needed to talk. When she showed up at my door, all her usual confident attitude was still there, but it was different. She looked nervous, defensive even. She walked in, tossed her purse on the table, and tried to act like nothing was wrong. I couldn't take it anymore. I looked her straight in the eyes and just said, "Lisa, I found the hotel key. The one in your purse. What the hell is going on?" Her face froze for a second, then she scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, so now you're accusing me of cheating, really? You're acting like I'm some kind of monster." She tried to brush it off, laugh it away, say it was just a mistake, that I was overreacting, but I was. The anger inside me was boiling over. I told her I wasn't stupid, that I knew she'd been lying about everything. She started to spin some story about how she'd been stressed, how it was just sex, and that it didn't mean anything. That Travis was just a fling, a mistake. I felt like I'd been punched again. I couldn't believe she'd say something so cold, so casual. Her words didn't match the pain I was feeling. I looked at her and said, "So you're telling me you're okay with throwing everything away over some meaningless sex? Just a stupid mistake, after all we've been through?" She snapped back, saying I was being ridiculous, that I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her, that she was just tired of pretending everything was perfect. Her tone was bitchy, her eyes full of defiance. She kept insisting she loved me, but her words sounded hollow. I saw right through her. That moment was the tipping point. I realized she'd been lying from the start, hiding her affair and justifying it with her attitude. I felt the betrayal deep in my bones. My stomach clenched and I couldn't hold back the anger anymore. I started shouting at her, telling her I'd never be able to trust her again, that she'd broken me. She just rolled her eyes and stormed out of the apartment, leaving me standing there, stunned and hurt. That's when I knew everything had changed. I couldn't stay with her anymore. This wasn't just about the affair. It was about her complete lack of respect, her lies, her coldness. I was shaking, not just from rage but from heartbreak. I spent that entire day trying to process what just happened. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let someone I loved so much betray me so badly. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. And yet, deep down, I knew I had to accept what was in front of me. She wasn't the woman I thought I knew. I wasn't sure what I'd do next, but I knew I had to get out of this toxic mess before it tore me apart completely. After she left that day, I didn't sleep. I just sat on the couch, staring at the wall, replaying everything in my head. The shock, the anger, the sadness. I felt like I'd been punched so many times I didn't know which way was up anymore. The worst part was that she had lied about everything, lied to my face with that bitchy attitude, like I was some kind of fool. I couldn't believe I'd almost gone through with marrying someone so selfish, so manipulative. How could she do this? How could she look me in the eyes and lie so easily? By nightfall, I made up my mind. I needed to confront her again, but this time with a plan. I wasn't going to let her spin some bullshit story and gaslight me into feeling guilty or confused. No, I wanted the truth, all of it. I knew I had to be calm, but I also knew I had to stand my ground. I texted her later that evening, telling her I wanted to meet, just to talk face to face, no more hiding. She replied almost immediately, acting like everything was fine, like she didn't care that I knew her secret. That only made me angrier. I told her that if she was honest and willing to tell me everything, maybe we could salvage something. If not, I was done. She showed up at my apartment around 9 p.m. looking annoyed. Her usual bitchy smirk was there, but I could see she was nervous underneath. I didn't waste time. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You lied to me about everything. You lied about where you were, who you were with, about Travis, everything. I found the hotel key in your purse. Tell me the truth now. What's really going on?" Her face darkened and she scoffed, crossing her arms. "God, you're so paranoid. You think I'd cheat on you? Please, I was just bored, okay? Travis, he's just a fling. It's not a big deal. I don't even know why you're making such a fuss." I felt like I'd been punched again. That was her typical response: blame me, play the victim, spin her lies, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her she was full of shit, that I wasn't some fool who'd believe her nonsense anymore. I asked her how she could be so callous, so cold after everything we shared. I saw her eyes narrow and her attitude shift. She got bitchy and snapped. "You're overreacting. You're just jealous because I don't want to be stuck in some boring relationship with a guy who doesn't trust me. I'm done pretending I care about this marriage if you're just gonna accuse me of stuff all the time." That was the moment I realized she didn't care. She was just toying with me, trying to manipulate the situation. That's when I felt everything inside me shift. I was furious, crushed, and exhausted at the same time. I couldn't believe I'd loved someone who didn't respect me enough to tell the truth. I looked her in the eyes and said, "You're a liar, Lisa. You've been lying to my face for months. I don't want someone like you in my life. I can't trust you anymore, and I don't think I ever will." Her face went blank and she just turned on her heel and stormed out, leaving me alone with my thoughts. That night, I did a lot of thinking. About how I got here, about what I missed, about what I should do next. I knew I couldn't stay with her. Not after this. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly broken. But part of me also felt relief. I finally saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who lied and cheated without a second thought. I realized I had to prioritize myself now. I had to let her go, no matter how much it hurt at first. So I started packing my stuff to leave the next morning. I realized I'd been living in some kind of fantasy, thinking she was the woman I fell in love with. But she was. She was just a liar who played me for a fool. And I wasn't going to let her do that anymore. I was done. I knew my life was about to change forever, but deep down, I also knew I had to do what was right for me. I deserved better than this. The morning after she left, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. Every part of me was numb, but at the same time, I was burning with a kind of quiet rage. I knew I couldn't stay in that apartment any longer. I needed to get out to clear my head and most of all to start healing from this mess. I started packing my belongings slowly, trying to keep my composure. It felt surreal, like I was in some kind of nightmare I couldn't wake up from. While packing, I kept going over everything. Her lies, the hotel key, the way she shrugged off my questions like I was just some paranoid fool. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I let her manipulate my feelings for so long. I thought about all those nights I stayed up worrying about her, all the moments I dismissed as just her being busy or she's stressed. Turns out, she was out cheating on me, lying to my face, and I didn't even realize it until it was almost too late. I finally finished packing and decided I needed to confront her again before she left town or did something even worse. I texted her, telling her I wanted to talk, that I needed to hear everything from her. Her response was dismissive. She said she was busy and that she didn't want to see me. That only added fuel to the fire. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, but I knew I had to stand my ground. This wasn't just about the hotel key anymore. It was about respect, trust, and dignity. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with what she'd done. Late that afternoon, she finally showed up at my door again, looking annoyed and a little defiant. Her eyes were cold. She tried to act like she was just visiting, like she didn't care that I knew her secret, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I looked her in the eyes and said, "Lisa, I'm done. I've seen enough. I know everything. The hotel key, the lies, the way you've been screwing Travis behind my back." Her face went flush and she scoffed. "You're crazy. You're blowing this out of proportion. I told you it was just sex, just a mistake, nothing serious." I couldn't believe she had the nerve to lie again, to pretend like she hadn't been caught dead to rights. I felt something inside me snap. I told her that her excuses were bullshit, that I wasn't stupid, and I didn't want to hear any more of her lies. I told her she was selfish, manipulative, and that I'd never forgive her for what she'd done. I saw the anger flare in her eyes, but she didn't try to deny it anymore. Instead, she just said she didn't care and that she was done playing my game. That was the moment I realized she didn't care about me at all. She'd already made her choice, and it was clear she wanted to keep her lies going. I told her to leave, that I didn't want her here anymore. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, shrugged, and finally walked out. As she left, I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. I knew I had just lost the woman I loved, someone I'd trusted and believed in. But deep down, I also felt a sense of freedom. I was finally seeing her for who she really was. The rest of the day was a blur. I sat alone in my apartment, still shaking from everything, trying to process what just happened. I realized I'd been living in some kind of fantasy for too long, trusting her, loving her. That was all I'd done. But now I saw the truth. She didn't love me. She loved Travis. And she'd been lying to me for months. I had to accept it. I had to let go of what I thought we had, no matter how much it hurt. For now, I was just trying to breathe, to find some semblance of peace in the chaos I was feeling. This was the start of a new journey, one I wasn't ready for but knew I had to take. The days that followed were probably the hardest I've ever experienced. Every second my mind kept replaying everything: her lies, her sneers, that damn hotel key. I was angry, hurt, humiliated, and honestly a little lost. I kept asking myself how I let this happen, how I missed all the signs, how I loved someone who didn't even care enough to tell me the truth. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was like my entire reality was shattered into a million pieces. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. All I could do was think about her, about Travis, and about how I was supposed to go on from here. I knew I had to make some decisions, though. I couldn't keep living in this nightmare. I started by cutting off contact with Lisa completely. I blocked her number, her social media, everything. I didn't want to see her face, hear her voice, or let her manipulate me anymore. I needed space, time to breathe, to understand what I truly wanted. I also started talking to some friends and family, trying to get their advice, trying to understand how I should move forward. But honestly, most of what I felt was just confusion and rage. I kept asking myself if I could ever forgive her, if I even wanted to. One thing became clear: I was done. No more pretending everything was okay, no more justifying her lies. I realized I deserved better. I deserved someone who loved me enough to be honest, who valued my feelings, someone who wouldn't lie about sex, about cheating, about betrayal. I knew I had to pick myself back up, even if it felt impossible right now. I decided to move out of the apartment that week. Packing up my stuff was like reliving every heartbreak all over again, but I knew it was necessary. I couldn't stay there, surrounded by the ghosts of what we had. The day I moved out, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. I was finally taking control of my life again, even if it was just a small step. I left behind most of her things, kept a few mementos just to remind me of the lessons I learned. As I carried my boxes to the car, I looked back at the apartment and felt a wave of sadness. I'd loved her, believed in us. But now I saw her for what she really was: a selfish woman who lied, cheated, and thought she could get away with everything. In some quiet moments, I wondered if I'd ever fully get past this, if I'd ever trust again. But I also knew that I was still me, strong, resilient, and capable of loving again someday. Right now, I just needed time to heal, to understand that I was worth more than someone who could treat me like this. I've realized that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes you have to walk away, even when it hurts like hell. And that's what I was doing. Moving on, piece by piece, day by day. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know one thing: I'll never let someone betray me like that again. In the end, I've learned a lot about myself through all of this. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also forces you to see what really matters. I used to think love meant sticking around no matter what, but I realize now that love also means respect, honesty, and being with someone who values you just as much as you value them. Lisa's betrayal showed me her true colors, and honestly, I'm glad I found out before tying my life to someone like her forever. I won't lie, there are days when I still feel the sting, when I catch myself wondering what I did wrong or why I wasn't enough. But those feelings fade a little more every day. I've started focusing on myself again, rebuilding my life and rediscovering what happiness really means to me. I've cut out the toxic chapters, and I refuse to let her manipulate my mind anymore. I've learned that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do, even if it feels like your heart is breaking. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's that you don't have to stay in something that's hurting you. Trust your gut. Lies and betrayal will always come to light, it's just a matter of time. And when they do, don't be afraid to walk away. You deserve someone who loves you enough to be honest, who treats you with respect, who doesn't lie or cheat behind your back. I might be hurt now, but I know that someday I'll find someone who truly values me. For now, I'm just grateful I found the strength to end it. It's a painful lesson, but it's also a lesson that I won't forget. Moving forward, I'll never settle for anything less than real honesty and genuine love. Yeah, I got my heart broken, but I also gained clarity. I know who I am, what I want, and what I won't accept anymore. Life's unpredictable, but I'm ready to face whatever comes next, with my eyes open and my boundaries intact. And that's the best I can do.